Good afternoon. I'm Merrilee Beazley, and I like to do YouTube videos to add to one of my websites. I have several things that I want to share with you. It's been a while since I've made a YouTube video. Just to let some of you know who may never have seen me before, to give you a little bit of my background, I am a certified school teacher, reading specialist, a registered nurse, and I have an MBA. I have 4 college degrees in 3 different fields. The reason that I'm telling you this is because I ran for state representative for District 135, which is where I live. I live in Jersey Village, and I have discovered it appears to me to be a very big cesspool. So I became the watchdog for about 2 years. I've been going to meetings, city council meetings, and I've been doing my research. I've been giving them suggestions. I've been noticing many things. Of course, the good old boys don't care. They want to do what they want to do. And strangely, some of this got started because I started investigating a very suspicious election where a very highly qualified candidate he was an attorney and had business experience. He lost the election by 3 votes to somebody who wasn't very well qualified, in my opinion. And the other person that wasn't very qualified was endorsed by the entire city council, which I thought was very, very strange. Well, anyway, I did what I could to even ask about if that was legal. It may be okay, but it seems to me it's unethical. Why did they want the candidate who was not very qualified? Well, I believe they didn't want Simon Hughes to ask many questions. So anyway, I started asking a lot of questions of my own. And I found out that Jersey Village had a lot of mail-in ballots. And I also found out we had an old-fashioned ballot box that had a slit in the side that was large enough for a hand to be put in it. Does that mean it's possible that somebody's been stuffing that ballot box? I don't know. So what I did is I created a survey. And with that survey, I asked several questions, and one question was, have you ever applied for a mail-in ballot? And strangely, I found out that some people had not. So anyway, what I did is I sent out surveys, and many people sent them back. 3 people indicated they'd never applied for a mail-in ballot, and one of them is a neighbor of mine. And he wrote me a note that said he had gone up there to vote and somebody had already voted for him. Now, if I'd been in his situation, I would have been on the phone to the Department of Justice and I would have said, please get an officer over here immediately to get this ballot box, to stop the election. Let's figure this out. Of course, I have a lot more experience in politics than many people do. I've been very active in the Harris County political party politics as a Republican for many, many years. In fact, I and Bill Beazley helped Lori Bartley run against Sheila Jackson Lee 4 years ago. And Lori couldn't even move the needle against Sheila. And that's when I found out how serious that mail-in ballot fraud is. Okay, now, just to give you some more information about all of this, I'm the watchdog for this place, and I've been keeping track, and I've been writing to the authorities about all these irregularities. And so this isn't something I'm reading about in the newspaper. I know what's been going on to the best of my ability. Now, I can't find everything because there's so much that's hidden. I did so many public information requests one year, I maxed out. I couldn't do any more for a few weeks, and that was okay. I never even had time to read every single one. There were so many. I would do one and I would start thinking, and it would make me think of doing another one. I'm even suspicious that we are a sanctuary city. And I'm even suspicious that when the ballot box was stored at Jersey Village Police Department at night, I wouldn't be surprised that somebody like Eric Forster, maybe, I don't know, he allowed somebody to tamper with the ballot box. Nothing would surprise me. Nothing surprises me much anymore. I had not trusted Eric Forster for a long time. And he was friends with the former mayor. They were friends. And apparently, Jersey Village was a speed trap and has been for decades. Now, I was stopped many, many, many years ago and given a warning. And so I don't think I've ever been speeding through this little place again. Okay, I think that Eric Forster was a revenue source. And oh, we want those red light cameras. Oh, they're so wonderful. They give us all that extra revenue, but guess what? The camera takes a picture of a vehicle. How do you know? How do you know where the ticket should go? And eventually, Greg Abbott decided that they wouldn't have them in Texas any longer. All right, so to go on with my saga, I decided along the way that I would run for Jersey Village City Council. Now, I realized that the JV City Council, the good old boys, decided they didn't want me because I asked too many questions, and I dig, and I know too much about them. So what I did is I still decided to run, and I did my best, but I think there was a whisper campaign against me. I suspect that the good old boys got on the phone, they emailed, they got a hold of everybody they could, and they made sure that I would not win. All right, so to continue on with the tale, I decided that I would run for state representative against the former mayor, Justin Ray. My friends begged me not to do it. And I said, I have the money, I'm going for it. And I thought about it for about 10 days to 2 weeks. I decided I was going to take a stand against the good old boys around here. Now, I am very suspicious about where Justin Ray gets his money. He's backed by rich developers like David Weekley, and apparently he's also backed by Perry Holmes, and then backed by Jim Dannenbaum. Jim Dannenbaum was on his host committee, and Jim Dannenbaum's in a lot of trouble because he has given illegal campaign contributions along the way. All right, so as I kept going, I just kept seeing more and more things that made me wonder what's going on. Now, there's not time to tell you all of my concerns. One of my main concerns is the fact that I found mail-in ballot fraud in Jersey Village, and James Singleton never won. He never won. And why did they want him so badly? James Singleton had a problem when he worked for the Jersey Village Police Department, and he worked for us. And I don't know why he wasn't fired and his police officer's license taken away. I don't know. All right, so to continue on with the saga, last October, Eric Forster got fired, and he was a friend of Justin Ray. I did a public information request for his termination letter, and I was horrified. Horrified. He was a tyrant to the officers. He was a tyrant. He was butting heads with department heads. I got his personnel file. Yes, and I found out there was a memo in there where the Internal Affairs Investigation report was taken out of James Singleton's file, and it was recreated about what had happened that day. And James Singleton did his best to try to tell me that I didn't know what I was talking about. Well, I happen to know the name of the officer who wrote the Internal Affairs Investigation report. His name is Detective Sean Horton. And the other officer involved with that report was Officer Craze. Now, I didn't tell James Singleton to run. I didn't tell Justin Ray to run. Now, there's another thing you might be interested in. There was an article that came out in the Southeast Texas Register, and it talked about something about the family had lawsuits and bankruptcy and back taxes. That's on the Southeast Texas Register. There's also a summary of the lawsuit that Eric Forster filed against the city of Jersey Village. And if you look it up, the summary's on the Southeast Texas Register, and David Yates is the one who wrote it and posted it. So if you want to do some more research, you could do that. Now, I want to encourage everybody to always do their own research. If you do that, I want to encourage you to look up Joe Danna and Fox News. Joe Danna was fired for lying when he was a constable. He, he claimed that he served a woman and she was in jail on that day. He claimed that he served her at her apartment and she hadn't lived there in a while. So how is that possible? So anyway, Google Joe Danna and Fox News and you'll see more. You'll see more details. Now, I don't know why Joe Danna thinks it's okay to run for Harris County Sheriff when you have a past like that. I also understand that Joe Danna did not go to the campaign vetting committees like he was supposed to. Now, why didn't he go? Would they find out? Would they ask hard questions like about this lying, being fired for lying? That's called a breach of integrity. And in the military, my understanding is you would be facing a court-martial. So if you're fired for lying when you're a constable and now you're running for Harris County Sheriff, what would the people say? Now let me tell you about a strange outcome. It turns out that Joe Danna got 8,000 mail-in ballots during the primary. And during the runoff, he got 16,000 mail-in ballots. I think that's very suspicious. And some of the places where they get some of those mail-in ballots are from nursing homes. And they were on lockdown because of the coronavirus. All right, so just to give you some more information. So I think we should do some petitions in Jersey Village. I think we should vote on whether we have electronic voting or not. I think that we should elect council members to the vacancies. I think that we should vote on anything that's the purchase is more than $600,000. I think we should vote on whether we move the city hall to the other side of Highway 290. I think we should vote on issues related to flooding. In all of these years, it's almost 4.5 years, nothing has been done to mitigate the root cause of flooding. On top of that, it turns out that Dannenbaum Engineering repeated a study that Brooks and Sparks had done. Now, Jim Dannenbaum was on the host committee for Justin Ray. Do you think there might be a connection there? I don't know. Could there be? Anyway, it's food for thought. So I want you to keep this in mind. I want you to always I want everybody to do their own research. I want you to think about whether the candidate really has integrity or not. Now, I'm a Republican and I have been for 53 years. I have never voted, as far as I know. I don't recall voting for a Democrat. Would I vote for one? If I saw a very qualified candidate who's a Democrat, I certainly would consider it. And right now, I'm going to tell you that I know so many things that I don't think are right with Jersey Village and with Justin Ray. I won't be able to cast a ballot for him in November because I know these things. And I don't trust Justin, and I don't trust Bobby Warren, who's his treasurer. Yes, I went to the FBI about Bobby Warren because he had my email, and I never gave it to him. And in the EU, European Union, that is illegal. So I don't know if the FBI came and talked to Bobby about it. I don't know. So anyway, just to tell you some other things I want people to consider. I have been a public health nurse for almost 2 decades. I used to work for the Harris County Health Department. I've been a school nurse. I've been a nursing instructor for Harris Health, which is Bentob LBJ. And I do not believe that the coronavirus situation has been about our health. Children are rarely impacted by the coronavirus. Children are impacted by the annual flu. 2 years ago, during the annual flu season, nobody was wearing a mask. Nobody would expect you to. What is the reason that the leadership has been able to do this, make sure that we're doing this? In my opinion, I don't agree. The coronavirus dies in the sunlight and drifts away on air currents, okay? So I don't think it's what we all think. And the numbers like this U.S. virus deaths hits sobering 200,000. Is that true? Is that true? Well, I'm going to tell you 2 stories that I personally know. I know somebody who lives here in Houston, He had 3 elderly family members die of illnesses. And the doctors have been pressured to stamp that they're COVID-19. And I said, that's fraud. That's fraud. I told them to report it to Medicare and the FBI because they investigate Medicare fraud. That is fraud. Everybody should report any person where the doctors were pressured by the hospitals with COVID-19. It is fraud. Report it to the state of Texas. Please report it. It is not true. We need to make sure that we have accurate numbers, and I don't think we will ever know because it's all been about the money. And I saw a TED Talk that Bill Gates did in 2015, and he talked about the next threat would probably not be nuclear, it'd be a virus. How did Bill Gates know that 5 years ago? I think that's very strange. Now, you could probably Google Bill Gates TED Talk 2015 and find the talk, because they do record them and post them on the internet. I think that the leadership has done some things that were not right. I think it's about the money, and when I see a leader wearing a flimsy mask, I know that they didn't do their own research. Now, I want to mention a little bit more. I got a card in the mail, the beautiful family of Justin Ray. Oh, I got our, Dan Crenshaw. Yeah, well, Dan Crenshaw never wore that patch until he started campaigning 2 years ago. Dan Crenshaw was in my home. And oh, the women swoon over that patch. And the men want to be just like Dan Crenshaw. Well, this is what Dan wrote. I'm proud to support my friend Justin Ray for state representative. Justin is one of the youngest mayors ever for Jersey Village and helped get his community through tough times like the tax day floods. He's exactly what we need to keep Texas on track up in Austin. Let me tell you the truth about Justin being the youngest mayor. It turns out that Rod Erskine, the mayor, decided that he would not run. And at the last minute, he stepped down, and before anybody else even knew it was available, Justin Ray signed up. What do you think about that little strategy? It's not illegal, but I don't think it's nice. Okay, now, here's something else from Mark Herman. I fully support Justin Ray in his race for state representative. I have seen firsthand that Justin always makes public safety one of his top priorities. That's from Mark Herman. Now, do you know anybody that does not want to have safety in their communities? Well, actually, that's probably not true, because we got a bunch of people up north that want to defund police departments, but we're talking about around Houston. And I'll tell you, I think that Justin Ray's campaign has done a wonderful job getting somebody to write these wonderful things for everybody to write on this card. All right, so what do you think about that? Now, here's Greg Abbott. Justin is a dedicated and proven conservative leader who has worked hard to defend Texas values. With a leader like Justin in the Texas House, I am confident that we will usher in an even more prosperous future for the Lone Star State. Good grief. Isn't that wonderful? Well, let me tell you about Justin's, the way he handled our city. He was a tax and spend politician. And let me tell you how he handled that flood event that he, quote, led the city through. Well, guess what? The city got $3.1 million from FEMA. And it was for 18 houses to be elevated. And nobody has ever done a thing to address what the root cause is of that situation. So you can just write wonderful words, but I know the truth. This is like silly. And I mean, and I'm going to tell you something else about Justin Ray. I never saw him at a precinct meeting. I never saw him at a district convention. I never saw him at a state convention. I never saw him except about once or twice a year at one of the Republican groups I'm very active in. And I'm involved with more than one group. I never saw Justin until he started campaigning. Okay, and so we got good old Dan Crenshaw, who never wore his patch until he started campaigning. And now we got Justin Ray, who I never saw except once in a blue moon before he started campaigning. And then he and I were on the campaign trail together. And I didn't tell everybody all the things I knew about Justin. So I will let you decide. You are the voter. You must do your own research. You must not listen to anybody. Please don't use slates. Please don't look at the beautiful cards. Please consider when you look at their website, think about this. They hire experienced writers that have experience in public relations. They put beautiful pictures on their website. But does that mean much of anything? I got 4 college degrees in my spare time. And I was raising children. I had full-time jobs, part-time jobs. I did an MBA on the weekends. So please, please evaluate carefully these candidates. Go to as many candidate forums as you can so that you can see them in person. If you ask somebody for information about a candidate, make sure it's somebody you trust. Please don't trust Stevie Hotze and Jared Woodfill. Please don't trust Terry Lowry. Please. Candidates pay a lot of money to Steve Hotze and Jared Woodfill. Candidates pay a lot of money for advertising in the link letter. And please be careful of anything that is a slate. We've got not slates where nobody pays. It's still a slate. Be careful. Do your own research. Think for yourself. Please, this is important, and please make sure that you go in person to vote. Mail-in ballot fraud is going to be big this year. God bless America. Thank you.